With all the big boys in the Premier League trying to make major moves in this summer transfer window and sign the best possible players they can to give them the best possible chance of competing for the title this season, one question remains. Why have second place Tottenham Hotspur not signed anyone? Today we're talking about why Mauricio Pocchetino's team are yet to flex their muscles and open up their checkbook, and why being too quiet in this transfer window may end up hurting their chances of another top 4 finish. Spurs last year achieved their highest ever finish in the Premier League and for some time were considered the only major threat to eventual winners Chelsea's title bid, as they ended up in second place with 86 points, setting new club records in the Premier League era for points, position and goal difference too. They also ended their final year at White Hart Lane unbeaten at home, minus of course in European competitions where they played their home games at Wembley. So they were unbeaten at home without technically being unbeaten at home. They were unbeaten at their White Hart Lane, you know what I'm saying. After a very successful campaign with a relatively youthful squad, the future seems nothing but bright for Spurs, but due to a lack of activity in this window and rival teams spending big money on new signings, some fans think there's definite reasons for cause for concern. Whilst the teams around them now appear to be getting stronger with big money moves being made by their rivals of Champions League football, Spurs have actually gone in the opposite direction. They've sold Fazio and Njai, who, to be honest, not many Spurs fans will be too sad to see the back of, but also they've sold their star right back Kyle Walker to Manchester City, the team that finished directly below them in the table last season, for £50 million. Now, whilst that may sound like a fantastic move for them, as they make a serious profit on the England international, an ex-Burnley right-back Kieran Trippier is renowned as being a better crosser of the ball anyway, and more than capable to step up and be first choice when not injured like right now, a few fans are concerned that no money has been invested in new signings in order to ensure this team don't drop out the Champions League places, which, with all things considered, would be absolutely disastrous for Spurs, as they've got a team full of talented players that would find it mandatory for the good of their careers to be playing in Europe's elite competition year in, year out. Well, there's several different reasons that could explain their extremely cautious approach to investing in new players in the summer, and I guess the main one is that the manager probably doesn't feel like he needs to. After back-to-back seasons of finishing in the top 4 and playing arguably some of the best football in the division last year, why mess too much of a winning formula? That could be the question Poch is asking himself every morning at training. The Spurs side from the outside appears to be a very close-knit group. The players seem to have really strong bonds between one another, and they clearly enjoy being in each other's company and playing alongside one another too. Add in a few bad eggs who don't buy into the manager's philosophy or enjoy working alongside their colleagues, and watch the teams begin to split. Let's not forget that last season, the 4 big signings Spurs made all left nothing more than the very slightest of impression on fans from North London, with the exception of course being Kenyan Victor Wanyama, who played under Pochettino back at Southampton. Vincent Janssen, Musa Sissoko and George's Kevin Nkudu were the other 3, who cost them a combined total of £56.5 million. I think it's fair to say Daniel Levy was hoping his manager kept the receipts on all 3 of those players. So it's pretty clear that what's most important to Pochettino is a group of players that love playing alongside one another and trust his methods without question. But surely they'd spend at least a bit of money, right? Well, actually, the club is spending an awful lot of money right now, just not on new players. Spurs are set to move into their new 60,000 plus seater stadium in 2018, hence why they'll be playing their home games at Wembley this year, and the new ground is estimated to be costing them a whopping £800 million. So of course they're being careful right now with this massive new investment to pay off, otherwise they'd be so far in the red, Mr. Levy will be lucky to make it to 2019 without losing a few fingers and toes. So what you're saying is they don't have any money? Well, no, not exactly. They can still invest and buy new players, they're just being really careful is all and taking a sensible approach, which I guess in today's footballing world should be considered very commendable. But just because they're presumably not going to be spending hundreds of £millions doesn't mean they're not going to make any signings at all. Spurs, going off recent history, are very late movers in the transfer window and like to wait until the last possible moment before bringing players in. In 2012, they signed Moussa Dembele, the Belgian version, Clint Dempsey and future club captain Hugo Lloris in the final 4 days of the summer window, with the latter 2 both agreeing deals on deadline day. That was around £25 million spent in 96 hours for the 3 players. It really is crazy how much football has been affected by inflation over the past few years. I mean, seriously, those 3 players for £25 million, Hugo Lloris is probably worth double that on his own right now. In 2013, it was very similar. They spent £50 million on Vlad Chiriches, Eric Lamela and Christian Eriksen all on the same day, which was just a couple of days before the window slammed shut. 2014, and their late summer signings were Fazio and Stambouli, and in 2015, a much better late acquisition was South Korean Heung-min Son, who signed just a few days before it was too late. With them making 2 of their 4 summer signings last year on deadline day, you can see the pattern that's been emerging over the years. Spurs like to leave it late before looking to make major moves, and they might sometimes dip their toes into the water earlier, but they're used to this system, and considering how well some of those signings have worked out, you can see why they'd rather stick to that philosophy than jump the gun and go too early. Due to this past experience, there's nothing to suggest they won't do the exact same thing again, and look to bring in a couple of players just before the window closes. Portuguese right-backs Ricardo Pereira and João Cancelo and English midfielder Ross Barkley are the most likely of many rumoured signings to end up in a white shirt before September, and I'm sure there's many other players who will be strongly rumoured to be signing for the club in the next couple of weeks as well. Now, whilst they may not be household names and major stars in world football, I'm sure fans will just be relieved to see someone put pen to paper at some point, whilst also keeping almost all of their big names at the club too. Although having said that, Danny Rose is rumoured to be leaving the club. What do you think, Spurs fans? Is he going or is he staying? Let me know. So that's basically that. Spurs are being cautious and most likely leaving it late before making moves, and it's nothing we haven't seen from them before. In fact, it's what we should have been expecting all along. So with that being considered, I guess really the question shouldn't be why haven't Spurs signed anyone yet, but whether their trademark late signing will end up being just as influential as Hugo Lloris, or just one to forget like Benjamin Stambouli. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. I really hope you did enjoy it, and if you did, then please do consider leaving a like. If you are new to the channel, please do subscribe and enable notifications as well for more regular football chat. And also let me know in the comment section down below if you think Spurs can maintain a top 4 finish for the 3rd straight year, or whether they'll drop out of the Champions League places and finishing outside the top 4 for the first time since 2015. Thanks so much for watching, have an awesome day, and normally at this point I would wave, but since you're on the subject of Spurs, I think I'll let Dele Alli do it for me. Cheers!